All right, that was at an event yesterday, and it did sound like his mic went out there, but he was making light of the fact that it also went out during his debate with Hillary Clinton. He has ribbed and reminded commission members of that ever since. Mike McCurry, commission for the presidential debate, co-chairman of this. Mike, good to see you.
Good to be here.
He doesn't let go. All right.
I think he was having some fun.
Absolutely. Now that he was just
at our expense.
Yeah. What happened with the mic?
You know, they are very carefully calibrated, and you can't mess around with them. Right. I guess that's about the most I would say. We are very protective of the process that the campaigns go through, but they are very delicate instruments. And one thing is clear: you could hear him on television. I happened to watch it on television.
Right.
There was no problem with that. And the sound in the hall was, needed adjusting.
But it wasn't. You didn't hear him in the spin room, and right?
You could hear. You could hear him. It was just
not as well.
The volume was a little bit soft.
His people say, oh, that was deliberate. The commission was trying to stick it to him.
No, we definitely would not do that. We have a very professional group. The commission itself is made up of Democrats, Republicans, Independents, no political
more Democrats, right?
No, I don't think so. Actually,
really?
I think I only know about half of the political affiliation of the 16.
But everyone associates you with your days working with the Clinton as spokesman for the Clinton administration, so they think that you have a vested interest in helping Hillary.
Well, I don't.
Really?
mean, I like her and I know her obviously, but I have no role in the campaign. Haven't been in politics for a long time. I actually teach theology now at a seminary. So
what happened?
That's called atonement.
It's a guilt complex. Let me step back from this, though. You always hear it, and talking to Frank and others, I know what you're talking about because we had a third party, Gary Johnson and Bill Weld here earlier, saying it's a pity third party guys aren't here. That you change the rules for them. That it used to be a lower threshold for Ross Perot in his first debate. Now it's much higher for them. How do you deal with that?
Well, that goes way back. The 15% threshold that we have actually goes back to the time in which the League of Women Voters ran the debates. But you have to have, according to law and regulation, you have to have some established criteria. Now, we set this criteria more than a year ago now. And so Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, everybody knew that they would have to get to 15% to be invited.
They argue it's very tough to get there, Mike, because they're not included in a lot of polls, period.
Well, they've been included. I think of the 5 polls that we use, they're included in all. They're all 4-way races.
They weren't there. They have to deal with it.
They got to generate support. And they have had lots of opportunities. Witness Gary Johnson being here with you, and he's been getting a fair amount of media coverage, but it takes a lot to get support from your supporters and to generate that kind of enthusiasm, and that's what a good candidate has to do.
You probably heard that Donald Trump is going to be tweeting during the debate tonight. What do you think of that?
Well, we live in the world of constant tweeting and constant commentary now, so I guess I am not surprised about that. Usually the top of the ticket kind of takes a back seat and lets the number 2 candidate shine in these occasions, but Donald Trump likes to do things differently.
All right, now I can't imagine many a news organization that would pass up the opportunity to share those tweets, maybe during the debate. How do you feel about that?
Well, that would trouble me because I think we want to concentrate on what the candidates have to say.
Right.
This is one of the this is the only time that we get to see the 2 vice presidential candidates side by side and getting a measure of them, what they're about, what they like to stress, and what their priorities are. That ought to be the focus, not running commentary. We don't have, Fox News doesn't do live commentary during the debates, and probably it would be best for others not to as well. But Mr. Trump can do what Mr.
If they
Trump wants.
do you think ill of them?
No, I think the media will have a very tough decision to make.
Yeah.
Do they stick with what the news is, the real event?
If you knew that Donald Trump was, for example, I'm sorry, if you knew Donald Trump was, would you feel incumbent on yourself, especially news organizations that would carry those tweets for Hillary Clinton to tweet to keep it fair?
Look, that's not up to us. Those are decisions campaigns make. Our job is very simple. We put on a debate. We invite the candidates to come to share their ideas and how it gets covered and what happens in the theater around the debates. That's really up to the campaigns and the candidates.
How do you police the crowd in each location? Now, I know you try to keep it even. I think in the case of Hofstra, it was 1/3 Clinton supporters, 1/3 Trump supporters, 1/3, I guess, volunteers, and those who participate in the lottery. Is it roughly the same? Now, this is a different audience, I know, and it's like a town hall format. How do you do it?
Well, the town hall participants will be, separately, and will be in the St. Louis debate. They'll be screened and picked by the Gallup organization. But the audience itself, we could try to keep very equal in the support.
But how do you know?
Sides.
How do you know people aren't going to try to hoodwink, or they shout and
we
applaud?
don't. We scold them.
Yeah,
it's
I
like
noticed
about
Lester Holt did that a couple of occasions.
It's about the only job that the co-chairs have at the beginning of this, to go ahead and please ask people to remember it's not about them, it's not about the audience, and there are millions of people watching, and you don't want to interfere with the people at home who are really trying to pay attention to the debate by disrupting the debate itself. That's why these debates are very different from the primary debates. Now, the primary debates are about political parties choosing candidates, so naturally they're a lot more boisterous and partisan.
All right, now, when you talk about trying to keep everyone happy, and people will look at you and your background, and you try very hard to be fair about this sort of thing, but people will pounce on things like the number of times a particular candidate is interrupted. Donald Trump, for example, was interrupted and or corrected far more than Hillary Clinton was, and his supporters seize on that to say it's a zoo.
Well, look, I think in fairness, Lester Holt kept a good, firm hand on that debate, and that did require him to intervene a couple of times. But the interesting thing to me was after the debate and the days after the debate, there wasn't a lot of commentary about Lester Holt and the job he did, which usually indicates that most people said, okay, on balance, that was a fair job.
They did mention, even those who like Hillary Clinton, well, boy, he sure interrupted Donald Trump a lot more. Do you think a moderator should be cognizant of that?
I think a moderator always has to be cognizant of how the balance is between the campaigns. Now, if one candidate is trying to talk over the other candidate, and the moderator's got to pull things back in to keep it under control sometimes, and there was a little bit of that happened in that debate.
Okay. Good seeing you.
Good
the theology thing, penance from politics, is that it?
What?
Is the theology thing penance from politics?
Yes.
It is.
It's the doctrine of atonement.
Mike McCurry, thank you very, very much.